This year, I would love you to give the gift of understanding during this holiday season. What I mean by that, it's a great opportunity to share and celebrate diversity. And I've taught in a lot of schools, and what I love at the end of year is getting my students to bring in different cultural activities they do, different songs, different foods, as you're going to hear in this episode. I love the end of year. I love the craft activities. I love the cooking. I love the celebrations. I love the songs. I love doing all of that. And what I love even more is when you have a diverse classroom of culture and religion and beliefs and traditions, getting all the children to come in and celebrate that, to share that, to not only share something that's important to their family, but share this with the rest of their community, to share it as part of their community. Because when we talk about autism spectrum disorder, we must come from it's okay to be different. And one way to frame it's okay to be different is to notice differences in ourselves and others, to celebrate how different we all are. That's what makes the world interesting. That's what makes classrooms interesting. That's what makes schools interesting. That's what makes communities interesting. And for me as a teacher, I love the diversity in my classroom. It's probably why I ended up going down the autism pathway and journey, because for me, I love trying to understand different way of thinking and engaging. So it doesn't matter what age, what type of school you're teaching at, this holiday season, take an opportunity to celebrate the diverse learners in your school, the diverse cultures. So anyway, I'll let my excitement run away, but I always just, as you can hear, it's one of my favorite times of the year. So I have put together a newsletter on giving the gift of understanding. It's got everything from tip sheets for the end of year to promoting understanding in your classroom, about great picture books that I recommend that all classrooms should have. But parents, what a great idea to share a picture book with cousins about autism or your extended family over the holiday season to help them help your child. Because I always say, if a child has asthma and they're wheezing, it's not just about them understanding their asthma. Their family, community, peers all have to understand their asthma. So if they see the child struggling to breathe or having their puffer, they understand, oh, Sue has asthma, she needs her puffer. Or if a child has nut allergies, we don't keep it a secret, we share it so that other children know not to bring peanut butter. Well, if you have a child in your class who likes to talk about Buzz Lightyear all day, guess what? Celebrate that. But also help the other children know, if they don't want to talk about Buzz Lightyear, how to explain that they've finished talking about it now. Can they talk about it tomorrow morning? You're not saying, I don't want to talk about it. That doesn't make sense to a child with autism spectrum. So how can we be supportive? How can we include children who have sensory overwhelm? Like, I just got a question about a child who's struggling to come back into the classroom sensory-wise and wants to sit outside. Well, how about we take the children to that child? That's what inclusion is about to me. It's being creative and thinking differently, thinking outside the box, because that's what neurodiverse kids do. Anyway, back to my holiday season celebrating. Now, parents, one of the things I would love you to consider is telling your child they're on the spectrum. Legally, I can't tell them they're on the spectrum. Legally, I can't tell the class they're on the spectrum. I need you to share that. Now, I know that is scary, so I have put in 2 pages of just a little summary about, guess what? There's no right or wrong way to do it. I've put in the newsletter some tips. And teachers, I would love you to share this newsletter with parents. What I recommend is you actually download it, and then if they have Apple devices, you can actually just airdrop it to them, because there's some great tips about end-of-year family activities. There's some great books in there. And how about if every kid got all cats are on the autism spectrum, or all dogs have ADHD as a Christmas gift this year? Imagine if we could celebrate diversity that way. So have a look. Anyway, so I believe holiday season is a great time to talk about differences And one of the things I'd love you to do is think about doing a display. And one of the things I love to do is to get every child to make a fish. And what we're going to do is every child's going to make a fish, and then we're going to put it with the words, "We may all be different fish, but in this school we swim together." Or you might have another saying that you love. I love "embrace difference to make a difference." And each child could draw a picture of themselves and put things on it. Now, in the past, I've got children to colour in the fish or decorate the fish. I've had children write things about themselves. But I'm thinking, let's make it a holiday season themed on the fish. So how about we get people to share what are their holiday traditions? What food, music, stories, religious activities, celebrations? When do they celebrate New Year? What do they do? What clothes do they wear? Do they have special clothes they wear? What are important dates? Now, one of the things, you could put all of this on the fish, but what I was thinking is every day the children could add a little bit to the fish and share on their table or their class, or you can go around the circle. So, for example, one of the things I've always done in my classroom is print out the calendar for December, January, February. It's a great way to learn those months because they're often months we don't talk about because we're not always at school. And what I like to do is find out what are the important dates for your family. So I know when I was traveling in Europe, Christmas Eve was a really important date. And I also know that in Italy, the 6th of January, the witch, I've forgotten her name, but it's funny. I started Googling, looking up all these things that I remember when I traveled, all the traditions that I saw when I was traveling. And I don't know where I printed that out. Yes. But sorry, anyone who's got an Italian background, but Befana, I think is how you say it, who's an old woman who delivers gifts to children throughout Italy on Epiphany Eve, so the 5th of January, but the 6th is a big celebration for them. So we could put that on there. Or the Greeks often have the boat as a symbol. We could put all these things on the calendar. For example, Chinese New Year is in January in 2025. And of course, Chinese New Year, they're red envelopes. So what are the colours of celebrations? Different cultures have different colours, different symbols, different games, different songs. So each day you could go through adding to your fish a different activity. So it might be, do you give gifts? What date do you give gifts? And we can put that on the calendar. Do you have special food? What date do you eat that special food? So my family have a French heritage and they do a special cake around the New Year that has a crown in it. Oh gosh, I forgot the name of that. I need to look it up. My cousins will be embarrassed by me, but often when I'm recording, I get a little bit nervous and words slip my mind. But how about we mark on the calendar what days are important? What days do you celebrate? What days do you do things as a family? Do you do Boxing Day? And what is the origin of Boxing Day? I always find that interesting. So I would love you to do maybe the calendar, or you could get a map of the world, maybe for geography, and talk about different parts of the world, what they celebrate. So, for example, I looked up and Three Kings Day is celebrated much of the Spanish-speaking world. Well, could we look up all the Spanish-speaking countries? And that is on the 6th of January. So we could have a map and look at all the countries, and then we can have a calendar and look at all the important dates. And we might find there's significant dates for lots of different countries, cultures and religions. Like the 6th of January sounds like it's important to Italians and to Spanish speaking. So let's look into that. I know I've had kids who find this so interesting. This becomes a special interesting. I've got kids who love finding out people's birthdays, but sometimes when I do this activity, they're like, oh, what do you celebrate? The one I found really interesting when I was in England quite a few years ago, they now do this elf on the shelf. So how about we find out about that? You will be amazed when you do it as a class, the things you don't know about. I always find it so interesting hearing each family's traditions, foods, dates that are important, things they do on certain days. And it's a great way for kids to celebrate that difference. Now, the other thing I love to do is find out the greetings or phrases. Do you say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year? What are the words and phrases that, peace be with you? joy to the world, happy new year, finding out words, like they're all English ones I'm giving, but I always love finding from the children, what are the words? Because sometimes they don't realize, oh, it's just my family that uses that word. That's not something all families use. So again, dive into understanding. And for some people, they mightn't have important dates in December, January, February. Their celebrations are another time in the year. So we can talk about that too. How has this evolved? I mean, there's different calendars. There isn't just one type of calendar in the world. And some of my children used to get into that. I think there's a Julian. Anyway, I had a little boy years ago that used to tell me the date according to all the different calendars. So that's another thing I like to do. Symbols of Christmas too. Like some people, it's a Christmas tree. Some people, it's the candle. Some people, it's a Christmas wreath. What are the traditions? The Jewish religion has very different traditions and candles. So let's look at all the different candles around the world. Let's look at all the different costumes that people wear, the veils and covering, and what are the important things? Shoes on, shoes off. I love all that stuff. I love all that. So and it's a great opportunity for children to share what makes them unique, what makes their family culture unique. Because I remember when I taught at a school that had a lot of children with an Italian background, that often different regions of Italy had different traditions too. So that can be really interesting to bring to the conversation. So I would love you to think about getting everyone to make a fish and to either decorate it or color it or add words. Every day we add a few more words, whether it's dates or activities or stories, like getting children to ring in storybooks that are about the holiday season. What are the stories that their family tells? Are they religious stories? Are they myths? Are they what's important to each family? And you could read one of those books each day, or everyone could share a book on the table. There's so many ideas. So as you can hear, I get all excited. And the other thing I love is a little bit of Christmas craft, but not just doing the traditional English craft, looking at all the different activities and things, again, using the symbols, looking at the different symbols and getting children to bring that in. Many years ago, I got all my children to interview a grandparent about Christmas and holidays and traditions and religion, and did they go to midnight mass, or what activities did they do, what food. And so many grandparents love sharing their childhood memories of this time of the year, or if they were born somewhere else, or they miss those traditions in the family, or they might share some of the things they mightn't have chosen to share with their grandchildren in the past. This is a great way to create connection. So you can do some of that oral history or get children to recount. But the year I did that, what was really special, I had a whole lot of grandparents then come in and do cooking with the class. So they came in and we had a German family do all the bread houses, but all the little any German people. Listeners, I'm really bad. I feel like I should start this again, but I don't know if I'll be any better the second time. But looking at those things, then we had apple strudel. I've forgotten who was that. Maybe that was Danish. So there was all these different things. And it was such a beautiful thing. And in fact, that for our class party that year, and I know lots of schools can't do class parties anymore for food issues, but if you can, it's lovely to get children not to just bring in a packet of chips. How about we get children to bring in some cooking, and then they can find out some family recipes. My mum makes a great pavlova, and I've got her to teach my youngest daughter how to make that pav, because I feel like that's a special tradition and something special for my daughter. So what are the things that we can do as a family and create those connections? And I think this is a wonderful way. Now, in the newsletter that you'll get, if you already sign up to my newsletter, and please check your spam. I know I keep reminding you about this, but I've actually got in there top tips for using cooking to teach everything, because I think you can use cooking to teach everything. And I'm saying this year, you can also use it to teach difference, and that we're all different. And there's some great recipes in there. Well, not recipes, sorry, some great ideas of how you can use cooking to teach motor skills, conversation skills, categories, hygiene, so many things through cooking, math, science, everything through cooking. So I think it's a great way to celebrate cultural differences. You can get children to bring in recipes. As I say, you can make it as a class party. But if you got children to bring in the recipes, that's a procedure, and getting them to write out the recipe or make a class recipe book. Or what if you were planning a virtual class party and everybody brings in a picture of their favorite holiday season food? What do they love to have? Do they have special food for New Year or for their celebrations? So I was looking up, like the Greeks have certain foods that are really important. So what's important to the family and culture around food? And I think that's a fabulous way. I really do think food and recipes bring families together, and using that is a great way. But if you don't want to do cooking, another one I've done in my classroom is music. And most families have different music they play, or songs or carols, or what are some music from around the world. And you can actually Google and create a playlist of different music to share as a class. Everyone adds a song, and maybe people can share how that song's important to them and their family. And it doesn't have to be an end of year song. It could just be a song they always sing as a family or something important. So I think music. Of course, you could maybe learn some different songs. That would be wonderful. Again, maybe you can get someone to come in and share some music. I remember when I was at school, I still remember one of the girls in my class, her mum played the piano accordion, and she came in at Christmas and taught us some German singing. And it was so special. I still remember. It was such a treat. I don't know if anyone plays piano accordions anymore, but anyway. Or craft is another way, getting everyone to bring in different craft or symbols. I just think let's just celebrate the beautiful diversity of our communities and the different activities and things that mean things to different people. So I'm hoping this holiday season you can give the gift of understanding. And that gift of understanding is we're all different, and it's okay to be different. And part of that difference is a different way of thinking and engaging. And part of that might be ADHD, autism spectrum disorder. It might be gifted, like the twice exceptional. There's so many ways that we are different. It might even be getting your class to do one of those surveys. What's your learning style? Are you visual, kinesthetic? You could do all of these things. But I think we often do that during the year. And I think Christmas and end of year and holidays is an opportunity to look at it a little bit different about how we are all different. So I highly recommend you download my newsletter, because not only in there have I got some tips around cooking and promoting understanding and how to talk to your child about their autism spectrum. Teachers, just a reminder that legally you can't tell the child they have autism or the class without the parent's permission. But parents, this would be a great opportunity for you to share diagnosis with the class. And please, I don't like it when it's, here's Sue, she has autism. I don't like that. I like it's when on that fish, here's Sue, her family Christmas food is a pavlova. They like to go to the beach over summer. Their favourite Christmas carol is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And you put all about me, and also Sue has autism spectrum disorder. What are the things? It's not the only focus of this child. I think that can be a little bit daunting. Now, some of my children are comfortable with that, but I prefer we start with everyone's different. And parents, that's how I recommend you frame it for your child too. By the way, one of the funniest things over the years, not funny, but most intriguing things I have learned over the year with students with ADHD and ASD. Often the parents get very anxious about telling the child and really worried. But when they tell the child, they're really not that interested. They already knew they were different. This isn't news to them, by the way. For many of my students, it's a relief. Or as Dean Beadle would say, before I got a diagnosis, I felt limited. Actually knowing the diagnosis made a difference. And I highly recommend you listen to Dean Beadle's podcast. I'll reconnect to that, and Chris Borneo's podcast. Both of them talk about how important it was to know their diagnosis and what a difference it made to them, both professionally for work, but also personally and understanding. So I highly recommend parents, this would be a great time to talk to children about difference and also about having ASD or ADHD. Now, the other thing I find is sometimes talking to children about their sensory. So we could include on those fish some things about their sensory. And maybe as a whole class, working out are there smells you don't like, tastes you don't like. When you do the cooking, you can talk about who likes certain tastes of things. That's always interesting, hearing about different smells or touch, or if you ever got clothing you don't like or sounds you don't like. Finding out these things are all part of it. And in the book, I also recommend with the books, you think about sharing books like The Red Beast with the children, or Winston the Wallaby Can't Stop Bouncing about ADHD, because some of my children, the autism spectrum might be interesting for them to know about, but some of my children will want to know, why do I get angry? Why do I get upset? Why do I find it hard to calm? Why do I have to go out of the classroom? Why do I cover my ears? Some of my children get very anxious about that. So talking to all the children about it can be very helpful. And there's some lovely books that are in the newsletter that I recommend too. I've also got in there some really good tips for end-of-year activities and concerts, because all the other kids think it's exciting. Some of my kids find it completely overwhelming when we have all these activities. So I recommend you have a look at some of those. I've got some really good tips, like giving the student a job, letting them be the photographer so they don't have to sit near everybody singing or making noise, or letting them be on opening the door, or let them go ahead and choose a spot they're comfortable sitting. So many things that can really help, giving them some choices around where they're sitting and what they're doing. And parents, I know that you might be thinking, oh, well, we haven't got a big concert this year, or it's smaller. But even 60 children in a hall can be very daunting for many of my students. They might need a little preventative break if they're in there for a long time. So you might have a timer. They're going to sit there for 25 minutes, and then they can have a 5-minute break and then come back in, particularly if it's long sitting. And parents, this is where I'd recommend, if you're doing family activities where they're expected to sit for a long time, you also consider that. What can we do to support that? I also recommend making social scripts about upcoming events and holidays. And I think on one of the other podcasts, I talked about one of my parents one year who made a fantastic social script about going on holidays and downloaded pictures of where they're going and the plane, but forgot to tell the child they were coming back home. So he literally thought he was moving there. So make sure your social scripts include all the information. I also recommend that on that calendar, you put when kids are coming back to school. I think that's really important. So we can talk about going back to school, and if they're moving to new schools, find out what day and when they'll be starting, because some schools start year 7, a different day to year 8, and so forth. So I highly recommend you download the newsletter that I have made. The other thing I am recommending this year is you give the gift of a visual timer. I am a huge fan of visual timers, and they have updated them and they are so cool. Make sure you have a look. They now have a little card that can slip in on the top of them and you can write on them. So those of you who have a large timer, they're now called medium, which are the 20 centimeters ones. And even better, they have a magnet on the back, 2 magnets now, so you can put them on your whiteboard, or you can stand them up. So they're so functional. They're the best gift. Parents, if you want to give teachers a great gift for having your kids, time timers are so good for the whole class. And time management is anxiety management. But I know some of the parents will be going, no, Sue, timers make my child stress. So I've put 6 tips for how to use timers so they're not so stressful as well. So the small and the now called medium timers come with a white card that you can draw on and then erase it. I highly recommend what you put on that is either the activity they're doing for how long, but I'm a big fan of them knowing what they do when they finish. So I would prefer the picture to be what they're going to do when the timer goes off. That will help with transition. So when they're finished on the iPad, what are they doing next, parents? They're not going to get off if they don't know what's next. Teachers, when they're finished doing that writing activity, what's next? If they've got something to look forward to. So what's next? When the timer goes off, what's the next activity? Because they don't need a visual for what they're doing. They already know that. They're doing that. So I recommend you draw what they're doing next. So if you don't have a timer, highly recommend. If you do want a present, or your family and friends are going, what's a really good present for your child? Timers are a game changer. So I highly recommend I mean, maybe you ask for it for you. Your child mightn't see the joy in a timer, but I promise you, my kids absolutely love timers. So I hope you are getting all excited about celebrating the holidays, taking this as a great opportunity to celebrate that we're all different, that you might be considering to make a fabulous poster and have a look on my blog where I've got a visual of that. We may all be different fish, but in this school we swim together. Or you might do the embrace difference to make a difference. Choose some sayings. I like going on Pinterest. You can find heaps of great sayings on there. And just enjoy this special time of year where there's so many nice things to look forward to, so many activities, and a great opportunity to celebrate our rich culture and diversity in all our communities. So have fun. Love you to send me some pictures of if you make any displays or any activities you do, or share your successes. I look forward to hearing from you. So make sure you send them to me. I'd really like that. And while I'm asking you to do things, I would love you to leave a review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast. It just helps other people find it. I love reading your reviews. They really inspire me because sometimes I'm like, oh, do I want to do a podcast? And then I read your reviews and it just gives me that. I guess it just reminds me I'm not just sitting here talking to myself, and I'm helping you make a difference to you and the kids you know. I hope you've got some great tips and strategies from this podcast. If you enjoy learning with me, I highly recommend you think about doing a course this year. Not only do I have courses by me, I have them with people with a lived experience, Temple Grandin, Dean Beadle, or other educators like Laura Kirby on PDA. I have a wealth of courses that'll make a difference to you. So make sure you check out all my online courses because you can learn online, anywhere, anytime, in a place that suits you, at a speed that suits you. So check out all the online courses that are available to make a difference to you and the children you know.